Hello, my friends. It is Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and this is the Daily Brief. Big story right now is that the hits on oil refineries and gas and that sort of thing, they just keep coming. So this is just a map of strikes on Russian oil and military infrastructure in January of 2025. Ukrainian hits into Russia at oil depots or refineries or that sort of thing. There's a lot of them, and they keep coming. It's February 3rd. We just saw 2 today. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let's go and look at some other things first. So Russian personnel losses in January, 48,240. Now that's the second highest, and it was second highest by so close too. 48,240 Russian personnel losses in January of 2025. This is the second highest monthly number since the invasion began. The only month with higher losses was the month before, December 2024, with 48,670. So there's like 300, 400 difference in that. That's about 10 a day. It's, I think, 10 or 11 a day, something like that. It's very, very close. Okay. So where are we today? So it feels like the temperature over the last few days, in fact, in the end of the last month, it was going down a little bit, and that's what made this so close, but it was above for about the middle of the month. So 1,300 Russians off the battlefield day over day. 12 tanks, 18 armored fighting vehicles, 51 artillery systems, 89 vehicles and fuel tanks, 3 air defense systems. Okay, so if we're looking at this, again, the numbers here are a lot lower than what they are over here in the last month. And at the end of the month, it started going down a little bit into 13 and 14 and stuff like 12 and that sort of thing. So maybe the temperature is lowering on the battlefield. This is too small of a sample to be able to actually tell you that for sure. Once we get through about 15 days, we'll be able to see if there's any kind of trend to this, but it might be a little bit lower. Okay, overnight, Russia launched Shahed drones into Ukraine. Out of 71 launched, 38 were shot down. Another 25 were suppressed by electronic warfare. I'm not seeing a lot of damage of civilian hotels or residences or anything like that. Okay. Let's look at this guy. This building was blown up. He was blown up. What happened here, an explosive device detonated in an elite Moscow residential complex and killed a criminal wanted in Ukraine. In 2022, this man, his name is Arman Sarkarsyan. Forgive me if I'm misspelling it. I'm probably not going to say it again. In 2022, he created a special forces battalion called Arbat, which recruited primarily from prisons in occupied Donetsk. Okay, so that's where he's drawing his soldiers from. He previously held Ukrainian citizenship and maintained close ties with former President Viktor Yanukovych, who fled to Russia. The explosive device was reportedly placed under a lobby couch, detonated remotely when he was exiting the elevator. Here he is with the Akhmat folks. His long-awaited by Ukrainian authorities, his assassination in Moscow today. He's the founder of the Arbat Special Forces Battalion, subordinated to the Russian army, currently fighting against Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region. So, okay, he's no longer with us. There were conflicting reports originally that no, he's alive, no, he's dead, no, he's alive. It appears that he is dead. Okay, in the past 24 hours, Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces destroyed a Buk M3 and a Strela 10 air defense system. Again, I showed you here that there were 3 air defense systems on the chart. So, okay. General Staff confirms on February 3rd, that's today, 2025, Ukrainian Special Forces and SBU, in cooperation with other defense forces, struck the Volgograd Refinery and Astrakhan gas processing plant, key producers for fuel for Russian forces. Okay, so let's first look at Volgograd. The Volgograd oil refinery drone strikes hit the flare system, the primary processing units number 2 and number 3, as well as processing units number 20 and 21. So it says here that they process about 6% of all the oil in Russia, but you're only hitting at least what we know is a direct hit of 4 of the units of at least 20 something. So we don't know if that will spread or if that'll be put out or what, but so it's not knocking out 6% of capacity, but it's going to do some damage. Okay, and in the meantime, it has to shut down. In the aftermath of Ukrainian debris, You know how it's always shot down and debris fell and hit and created the fire. At least 11 fire spots at the Volgograd refinery, 1 fire at the Astrakhan gas processing plant, according to NASA firms fire monitoring. So they hit only apparently 4, but there's 11 fires going in Volgograd. So there's something there. Russia's Lukoil refinery in Volgograd is responsible for nearly 7%. The other thing's at 6%. Country's diesel of the country's diesel production. It was hit by Ukrainian drones for the second time this month. And those hits are going to keep coming. I mean, I don't know why there's no scenario that I can see short of the end of the war that would cause it to stop coming. Okay, in a different place, this is Orenburg. Workers are being evacuated from the Orenburg gas processing plant amid danger of Ukrainian strikes. I don't know that there were any strikes there, but they're getting out of Dodge. Ukrainian drones have also hit the Astrakhan gas processing plant, one of the world's largest plants of its kind, processing up to 12 billion cubic meters of gas annually. Well, okay, so that's another hit. Astrakhan gas processing plant stopped working after a drone strike, according to the governor of Astrakhan region. That's about as tepid as of an explanation as you could possibly give while still telling the truth. This is one of the largest gas chemical complexes in the world and the largest enterprise in the Astrakhan region of Russia. I had to look up where the Astrakhan region of Russia is. It's here on the north of the Caspian Sea. I was not familiar with that, but that's how we're learning geography as we go. 3 Russian oil refineries struck in the past week. They represent 16% of Russia's total refining capacity, now offline. Doesn't mean destroyed, but offline and partially destroyed, but we don't know how much damage of that 16% will actually be continued to not work. Okay, Joe Wilson, Representative Joe Wilson from South Carolina, maximum pressure on Russian oil is the key to forcing war criminal Putin to the table. I think that's spot on. Now, meanwhile, let's look at some other events or turn our attention to other places. The 63rd Brigade of Ukraine reports that for some reason, the Russians in Limansk direction do not use armored vehicles, and they are increasingly using civilian vehicles instead. I don't know if this is because they're trying to look like they're not military or because they're out of military vehicles. And if anybody knows the answer to the question, I'd be happy to hear it. Landmine kills Russia's highest-ranking official in Ukraine war so far. Sergei Efremov, deputy governor of Russia's Primorsky Krai. So a deputy governor is the highest-ranking official killed so far in the war. I mean, civilian official, not general or something like that. Okay. Kyiv Post, explosions near Ukrainian Military Recruitment Center in Volgograd injures 1, latest in a series of blasts amid rising tensions over enlistment. Investigation is ongoing. Okay, so I was going to talk about this with Greg Terry. He's just out of pocket right now. He's at a place where he doesn't have good connection. And when he does, we'll talk about this because there have been at least 3 explosions that I'm aware of Ukrainians targeting Ukrainian recruitment centers. And there's a little bit more to the story here, like the Russians like kind of bribing them to go do that. And there is a good deal of fear of people, feeling that I don't want to be mobilized or something along those lines. I understand that there's a number of factors here, and hopefully we'll get to some clarity about that. Meanwhile, in Russia, they're releasing this video warning against partisan attacks. So what you just saw was in Ukraine, Ukrainians doing this to Ukrainian recruitment centers. This is in Russia. This is a video warning against partisan attacks. Sounds like it's turning into a serious problem if they're expending resources on this, saying in videos, you'll certainly be noticed, you'll certainly be fooled, you'll certainly be found, 10 years in strict regime colony. So they're trying to warn them not to engage in some kind of attack against either trains or equipment or recruiting centers or whatever else. Okay. After the Bristol attack, Sergei Similny posted this, a long list of hotels in Ukraine where I stayed once, which got hit and totally destroyed by the Russians, including the Bristol in Odessa and Kramatorsk. And he lists 7 of them here. Like, be careful, Sergei. Like, this, wow, that's something. About 1,500 Azovstal soldiers, excuse me. I'm trying not to cough because I still have a little of something, and I have it's like in the back of my throat. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Azovstal soldiers of all units are still captured, including 700 Azov soldiers. So every Sunday, Ukrainians gather in Kyiv and other major cities in the country to raise awareness for their friends and families and countrymen still in captivity. And they're aware, it's just getting them back is kind of a tricky proposition. So about 1,500 Azovstal soldiers of all units are still captured. Every Sunday, hundreds gather in Kyiv to raise awareness for those still in captivity. You see that we have around 1,000 people here, and most of them have relatives and friends in captivity. Some people are just supporting the families, like there are people who just come to show their support and get support, and this is like a social meeting club for people who are united by the cause. Yeah, I'm sure the Ukrainian government is well aware of that and would love to trade them back, but this is just a sad state of events where we are. The U.S. Navy released a new photo of USS Preble DDG-88 firing her Helos laser weapon. Helos is that laser that can knock down drones and that sort of thing. And yeah, that's going to be the wave of the future. And we're seeing lots of drone innovation here, and this is going to become more and more important over time. Zelensky shared photos showcasing Ukraine's drone production lines from copters and naval drones to long-range UAVs, and there's some amazing pictures here, just like what these look like being put together, and UAVs and unmanned, I don't remember what the term is for aquatic, but naval vessels. Yeah, okay, so now, clearing the sky. The sky is pretty packed with drones over Ukraine. Clearing the sky in January, the air defenders of the 47th Mechanized Brigade downed 13 enemy birds, 7 Zala UAVs, 2 Scott UAVs, 2 Supercam UAVs, 2 Zala Lancet UAVs, and this is just what a single unit has done. Like that's the interesting thing about this, that I mean, there are multiple units doing this sort of thing, and here's another image of this. This is a fiber optic drone knocking down a Russian, I don't know if it's a Lancet or Zala or what exactly it is, but you can tell that it's a fiber optic drone because the little pod underneath it, is the spool that allows the fiber optic cable to go out. And so it can go where other drones might not be able to go. And yeah, that's pretty amazing. Okay, last little thing. This is Darth Putin saying it's been 3 years since Moscow was evincing little enthusiasm for an invasion. The U.S. scripted InfoWar twists in the wind. Okay, here's Alan Watson. I don't know who he is, but he says it's been 7 weeks. Now, this is February 3rd of 2022. That's 3 years ago today. Saying it's been 7 weeks since Biden's December 7th stern warning to Putin, with U.S. senators and public opinion demanding sanctions from heck. But no invasion, and Moscow is evincing little enthusiasm for an invasion while letting the U.S. scripted InfoWar twist in the cold wind. Yeah, there's not going to be an invasion. That's Biden just making up stuff. Well, turns out. All right, my friends, thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.